Alright, today I'm out here on the Tao Tao DBX1. Picked it up, well, it got delivered about 2 weeks ago. So this is my first time bringing it out to the trails. I've ridden around my yard a little bit. Didn't do a setup video like I kind of wanted to. But assembly is really easy. The big thing is to follow what you see online and actually go through and grease bearings, tighten up at bolts. It's not fancy, but it'll be for friends to be able to come ride with me, so we'll see how it does. Gonna ride it over here to the enduro track and see how it handles on there, and then probably hit the green trail while I'm out here. My CR80 conversion is currently waiting on the frame to come back from powder coat. So right now this is the only dirt bike I've got. It's had a little bit of break-in time, but not a whole lot. It's also my first time having it somewhere other than my backyard. Seems like decent speed out of it. Let's hit some obstacles and see how it goes. Too chicken to hit some of the big ones. And technically this thing is still cold. Did alright hopping over that one. Let me stop. I should be able to put the choke fully off now. We'll power the front wheel up in second gear, which is pretty good, I think. I might have to lower the rear brake pedal because I seem to keep hitting it now that I've got my motocross boots on. I did change the oil on this before I brought it out here. So it got about 5 minutes of runtime on the original oil. And then it's gotten probably 10-15 minutes of runtime on the new oil. Just around my yard, messing around. So I brought it out here to actually ride it here at the trails and make sure it's good to go for friends coming out with me. So a little bit there at the enduro track to run it for a minute before I commit to riding down the trail. It's got a full tank of gas, so let's see how it does. Suspension feels a little stiff, but it's a pretty base model. I mean, this bike was $1,100 delivered to my house. The seat is rock hard on it. So I'd say the seat is uncomfortable, but being a dirt bike, you're supposed to stand more than sit. Rear end feels a little bouncy. Considering right now you can't even pick up a small bike for $1,500 in decent shape, I would say this isn't a bad deal. It's got 140cc little Grom clone motor. Well, I guess not a Grom clone, it's more of a big bore stroked clone of the old Z50 motor. It's got a 14-17 wheel combo, so it's like a small wheel CR80 on wheel size. Stock tires are okay. Like for riding slow, playing around, they're probably good. If you're gonna get serious or try to go fast with this, I would recommend some better tires. These definitely wiggle around a lot more than the MX-53s I have on the CR80 conversion. Like, they're definitely wiggly here in the sand. Woo. I've got a bug or something on my safety glasses, so that's mildly disturbing. And it's gone. Nope, it was on my glove. I know a lot of people say to upgrade the carburetor pretty much right away on these, but this one comes with the PZ27, so I don't want to downgrade to a 26, and I'm not sure how well it'd do with a 30. So unless I start running into the shortcomings of the stock carburetor, I will probably leave it alone. I might consider rejetting it at some point. But for right now, it seems to do pretty decent. Yeah, I would have to say these tires are really not good in softer terrain. They really just kind of want to walk all over, especially when you get in the deeper sandy dust. Like right here, it really walks all over. being 5'9", if you're going to do a lot of sitting, you'd probably want lower pegs or a taller seat. Because I can definitely feel my hips cramping up a little bit sitting on here. I was just getting into third gear right there. Seems to do pretty good to me. Once I get it home, I'll definitely want to go over nuts and bolts and make sure nothing came loose. Because from what I've read, these are notorious for that. Right there, the back wheel tried to wash out around that corner. So yeah, these tires will probably get replaced relatively quickly just because they're not very good. But I will say, it seems to have plenty of power for the riding me and my friends will do. None of us are racers, so we're not too concerned with having gobs of power. But these tires really suck in this soft stuff. So yeah, I'm really not a fan of the stock tires on here. The bike really just kind of wants to go its own way. So if you're gonna ride a pit bike seriously, definitely budget for putting better tires on it. Ergos, I would say, are a little cramped for somebody that's 5'9", but that's to be expected out of a small bike. Definitely need to lower the brake pedal, because as soon as I put my foot on there, I lock up the back wheel. On this harder pack, the tires definitely seem to have a whole lot more grip, which is good. So if you're riding fairly hard pack stuff, the stock tires might be alright for you. Although if you're faster than me, you might want better tires regardless. I'm not sure how the stock suspension would handle jumping. Second gear, pretty low RPM, so I'd say plenty of torque out of this little bike. I'd have to say, I think it's probably torqueier than the 120 XR motor that I've got in the CR80 frame. but part of that might be how I have it geared. So when I ordered this, it took about just a hair over 2 weeks for it to show up from the site I ordered from. It was $900, then $200 shipping. And they did bring it to my house with the lift gate. So there's no driving to the freight depot or anything like that. It does have a spark arrestor screen on the muffler, so it is legal for bringing out to trails. So if you're wanting something cheap to move your kid up from like CRF50, XR50, something like that, and you don't want to spend the $1,500 to $2,000 people want for used bikes right now that are in okay-ish shape, one of these might be a decent solution. Or if you're like me and you have a friend that might want to borrow it sometimes to come riding the trails with you, and you're not very fast, probably be pretty good for you. I mean, there's plenty of bike to have fun on. I mean, I like having a small dirt bike just so I can practice riding wheelies and whatnot. Because my street bike's 500 pounds and I really don't want to mess it up or get a ticket for trying to ride wheelies on the street. You can definitely feel the shorter wheelbase compared to the big wheel CR80. It's bumpier. Probably helped if I stood up more. Like I said, I'm really a novice at off-roading. So far I have to give this thing a thumbs up. I'm also not pushing it super hard because technically I'm still in that break-in window. And break-in is really pick your poison. There's a lot of different opinions about breaking a bike in. None of them are really wrong, none of them are really right. I mean, if your bike comes with something that the manufacturer recommends, I would go with that. I'm sticking with the green trail and not doing the grass track today. That adds 3 miles. I might add a set of cheap handguards to this just because there are branches that hang over the trails here, and that way if it gets wrecked, it'll also protect the levers. Hopefully help keep it lasting a bit longer. I'm doing a lot of this in second gear. Just, like I said, I'm not too fast. Just out here to have some fun. Woo! Oh, stalled it. Alright, back in neutral. Let's see how well this thing will re-hot start. Alright, re-hot started without a problem. Clutch does drag when it's really cold and you first start it, so you kind of want to let it run for a minute. I was up second gear up that, second gear right here. So it's a nice torquey little bike. So if you're like me and you're slow, you can kind of stick it in second gear and just kind of go around the trail. Not the best suspension I've ever ridden on, but definitely not the worst either. I do have a set of D&M Hornet forks I could throw on here. And if I get really frisky, I could machine up some bolt-on swing arm extensions and switch this thing out to a 16, 19-inch wheel combo, like my CR80 big wheel. Brakes seem to be pretty good on this. Back brake's really easy to lock up. Front brake works really well. It'll stop you in a hurry, and if you throw in back brake too, you'll really stop. So while none of the components on this thing are high-end by any means, like, you know, the carburetor's a knockoff Cayenne, it's not a real one. Pretty sure the Tao Tao's use the Zongshin motors. But so far the motor feels pretty stout, and for braking I've gone more of the medium stress route where I rev it, I let off, I rev it, I let off. Didn't take it to a red line for the first couple minutes of running. Now through here is a really sandy area, so it'll probably try and walk around on me. Oh, some of the sand's cleared up, that's not too bad. Okay, right here's sandy. I'll go to the smoother spot. They did recently do a bunch of trail maintenance out here at Draper. So the green trail is different than it was last fall and early this spring. But they probably, part of it was they had to come out here, fix mud holes that got too big. They fixed that one hill that had rocks, and it was, you had ledges you had to go up. It was pretty bad at the end of last year. It's a lot simpler now, but this is the green trail, so it's supposed to be the simplest trail out here. There are definitely more complicated trails out here. The red trail had some pretty rough spots on it when I took my KTM down it, which I did sell that KTM, which is why I have this now. And they did lengthen out the green trail right there. So it is a much longer trail. It's closer to 9-10 miles instead of the 7 it used to be. So I'm taking the shortcut right here, which will keep it right about the 7-mile mark. Still in second gear through here. Just kind of showing the ability of this little thing to kind of tractor up stuff. One other thing I did during setup was I did adjust the valves after I ran it initially. I ran it probably 20-30 minutes around the house, up and down the street a little bit, and then just trying to do wheelies in the backyard. Then I adjusted the valves. The intake was really tight. I actually had to put a wrench on there to get the adjuster loose. Like the actual adjusting screw, not the lock nut. That used to be a drop right there. They smoothed it out. Still a pretty rough trail, but it is pretty beginner friendly. I could probably drop back to second right here. Here's a nice little sandy spot. You can really feel it trying to walk the back wheel out on you when you're going through the soft stuff. Steering's really light on it. Well, it sounds like I just kicked up a rock into the skid plate. So far I gotta say, if you want a inexpensive little dirt bike to ride around, one of these is probably a pretty good choice. It's not fancy. You can spend way too much money upgrading them. Like you could put 800 bucks in this, drop a Zongshin 190 in it, get it up to 18-ish horsepower, or spend the 1500, get a Daytona 190 and have the 4-valve with 22 horsepower. Which, if you're going to put a 14-inch rim on the front and supermoto it, that would be pretty entertaining. Alright, first trip through the trails. Let's pull back over by the truck over here. Still seems to be running pretty good. Don't hear any weird noises. Let's take a look at it. It's dusty but not bad. Got plenty of dust on it. So far so good. It's holding up well. That was about 7 miles on the Tao Tao. You can see my tie-down strap scraped it a little bit. Steering head bearings are in here. They have been greased. I used Lucas Red and Tacky. The axles also got some Lucas Red and Tacky put on them just to keep things from getting stuck on me. And after I heat cycled it a couple times, I did retorque the head bolts. Let's see how much gas is left. Oh, this didn't burn much gas at all. So I think I'm going to turn you guys off and just kind of go ride around a little bit more.